Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Small with the Montana AFL-CIO. It is Tuesday, February 4th, and this is another attempt at the Blue Collar News. So today we have Stacey Yates, who's the business manager of IBEW 1638 with us, and we also have Maria Crispin, who is the president of 1638, president of the local. So good to see everybody. Why don't you do a little introduction, tell us what you do, and maybe we'll have a discussion about training and whatever else you offer.
Yeah, sounds good. My name is Stacey Yates. I'm the business manager, financial secretary of the local 1638 in Colstrip. And, I've been the business manager for, I think it's about 6.5, 7 years right now. So on my third term, and definitely it's been a learning curve since day one till now, but I very much enjoy the job still, and enjoy, being around local peoples that have the same values.
Excellent. What's your background, Maria?
President of the local 1638, and this is my first term doing it. I've been an employee out at Talon for 15 years now, and I'm employed as a chemist. But I've been I've been a lifetime resident almost of Colstrip, and I'm just happy to serve my union brothers and sisters in this role.
Excellent. It's always good to see good people step up and make an attempt to keep the ship going in the right direction. It's a tough thing to do, and I know from past experience, oftentimes it's kind of a no-win situation for you. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't, but I tell you what, it takes good leadership to keep everybody going the right direction, and union strong, of course. So what does the membership look like there in Colstrip? What do they do primarily at the plant and whatnot, and how's it all work out?
Well, we're made up of several different crafts. We have instrument, electricians, JSO, journeyman system operators. They operate the plant. We have journeyman mechanics, chemists. We have welders, machinists. So, and on top of that, we have some actual fairly new members that are dual crafted. We have a new EHP facility that's, it's located about 5 miles out of town or away from the plant, that there's probably, I would say, 16 EHP guys that are dual craft out there. So we have a wide gamut of different crafts that we represent, and along with that, we have a very well-rounded apprenticeship training program that is in that we partner with the state in. The union partners with the company, and it's a mechanic or a journeyman system operator's apprenticeship. So it's very, very good apprenticeship, and we're very proud of it. They receive training on pumps, alignments, anything that you need to do. Rigging is another big one. Anything you need to do to basically be a mechanic, you get trained in. So and also same with the journeyman system operator, you get all the training you need, and probably more, to be a JSO. I mean, it's a well-rounded, and it's a great partnership that everybody's extremely proud of.
What are the key concerns for your members when you're bargaining for new contracts? What are you looking to get?
Right now, I think, as everybody can see, is healthcare is a huge priority. Health insurance is key. Like you mentioned, Rosie, we just finally ratified a contract with Rosie here on I think it was the 15th of January was the ratification date. But that was a long drawn out process and we fought hard to get healthcare paid in full, and we achieved that. So right now, our members at the Rosie plant have 8th district health insurance with no out-of-pocket contribution from them on a monthly basis. So that's a huge deal. We also were able to get 3.25%, which is just slightly above market, CIP index. And then you have a few other, things that we did. We got, from 8 hours of holiday pay, we increased that to 10 for every classification. So we made some big improvements, and I think we, some boot allowances and things of that nature.
So Maria, how does the chemist job work? Do you do the Bill Nye the Science Guy type deal all day there at the plant, or?
Yeah. And the chemists weren't originally in the union until like the 2000s. So, and that was prior to when I started there. But yeah, we also maintain the water systems of the plant. When you're looking at high pressure, high temperatures, you have to keep very, very clean water. And so we do work with the water treatment operators and the operations sides to do that. But yes, we Bill Nye the Science Guy. We do our testing, and we produce numbers, but then we have to troubleshoot: is this good? Is this bad? What steps next do we have to take to make it better? And again, working with the operations side to, make changes in pumps or chemicals that are added. One way somebody described it to me, which made total sense as far as how water treatment is in the plant: the chemists are the brains, and then the operators are the arms and legs. So, and yeah, it is an important job. It's kind of limited. There's only just 5 of us in the facility. So, it is interesting because, we do something very unique compared to the rest of the workers there.
Yeah, I don't think most people listening to this would realize that effectively the plant would eat itself without the proper chemistry, right? I mean, it'd wash your pumps out, eat the tubes.
Yeah. We keep, that's our job, is to prevent all that from happening. Or when things start to go bad, what do we do next? And then there's a big burden of responsibility that is put on us after the fact, and finger pointing, it happens every once in a while. But for the most part, yeah, it's very important. It's not something a lot of people think of when they think power plants, but it is definitely an important aspect.
What does the prospect of collective bargaining mean to you?
It means to me on a few levels. It means, as a one who has a family, I have 4 children, it means, benefits, wages, we're all equal. Like Stacey had mentioned earlier, we're all equal. And being female, we're still equal. It's definitely more majority men that work at a facility, but we are still equal. And I think that's great. That is one of the bonuses of working there and working with a collective bargaining unit, is we know where we stand, all of us, male, female, race, age, those things are out the window.
Absolute security. Yep. How important, and I mean, I kind of understand this, but the general public often doesn't, but how important is Colstrip power generation for Montana and the region?
Well, I mean, from my aspect, from my point, I mean, if you're looking at, the health of the grid, you call it, right? I mean, the power prices and where they're at, and how if Colstrip, if we have, maintenance to do and we come offline. Okay. So if you look at that and Colstrip's offline, and you look at, and say you just take one unit off, units 1, or you take unit 3 off, and you look at what the power prices do, they'll spike. You can watch them spike, anywhere, depending on the weather at the time. I mean, we've seen, spike into the $1,400 a megawatt. So that's incredible. I mean, if you really look at, and if you scale back and you look back to, if you look back to like 2010, before they were taking off all these other coal-fired generators in the Northwest. If you look back before that, what power prices were doing, it was way more healthy. Let's put it that way. You didn't have the huge influx. The power prices weren't, jumping up to $1,400 a megawatt, even $200 a megawatt, right? I mean, they would maintain at a reasonable rate. Now, it seems like that they're somewhat potentially could be unhealthy just because of those great big influxes. And it, ultimately, you know, what's it going to do? I mean, who's it cost? And it's going to cost the, you know, the homeowners, you know, that's who's going to, you know, absorb those costs. Right. So, yeah, I think Colstrip's more important today than, or every bit as important today as it was, you know, 30 years ago. Let's put it that way.
Right. It's been a source of base load energy now for 40 years. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, it's tough to get rid of. And I think that's finally coming to light, you know, energy independence. We hear that tossed around all the time. Infrastructure. Well, I mean, that baseload power is part of the infrastructure we have to have in the United States right now. And let's be realistic, over the past decade, they've knocked down hundreds of these coal-fired units, and it's left us with a slightly unstable grid. I mean, it's not what it was at one point. You know, it used to be where they can make a phone call and ramp another unit up somewhere and keep that power on the line. So, I mean, that goes to explain the huge variable swings in pricing we're seeing. You know, $12, $8, and then $1,400. I mean, boy, that's substantial. So I'm glad to see that that old unit's still rocking and rolling, and that brings up another point too. I know you guys are involved. I'm a boilermaker by trade. I've basically spent a lifetime rebuilding these power plants, refineries, stuff like that. And you know, one of the fallacies we often hear is that they're old and they're worn out and yada yada. And you know, that's just because this site's been there for 40 years. I mean, there's not a lot of parts in one of these units that's older than 10 years old, for God's sakes. You know, I mean, everything's updated and kept up and current. And
Right.
I've always felt that that never got enough exposure throughout the years as we've been fighting the markets and fighting everybody to keep these things open. So, so you know, Colstrip closed 1 and 2. I mean, Montana over the past decades seen some downturn with the energy market. The closure of the CREP plant in Billings, 1 and 2, and Colstrip. I mean, those were, you know, rather large units also. But what's it done to the town of Colstrip? What are the changes you guys have seen there? And I know there's nobody more qualified. Everybody's kind of spent their lives there. How can you weigh in on that?
I think, you know, that's a great question for Maria. Maria's native Colstrip, been there, you know, her entire life, or most of her life. So, well, you take that one, Maria.
Sure. You know, initially, especially in the 90s, when there was quite a bit of a layoff with Montana Power selling the facility, that was an initial shock to the community. We lost a lot of population. It affected the school being, you know, dropped down in its classification from Class A to Class B. And so then, of course, as the community is dwindled, so are other things, you know, also seeing even just locally in the town, you know, restaurants, other businesses that aren't there anymore. So that was kind of a big impact there. And then, you know, now even the more recent, with unsurety of how long we will stay open there, a lot of people, high turnover. They don't want to stay and risk, you know, being out of a job, risk unable to sell their home, and or even risk buying a home without being able to resell it again later in the future. And so that's really affected, you know, just how many people do stay and want to raise their families and, you know, be a part of the community as well. And also seeing a lot more people who commute to the town from either Billings, Miles City, even Forsyth, which, I mean, we're so happy to have our employees come and work for us. But, you know, that again affects the local community that they're not involved in as much, since they're not full-time residents.
What about one of the other important aspects? What's happened to the school system over the years? I mean, I know there's been quite a few changes. I was around there during, well, all of us really were kind of there during its prime. What's happened since, you know, mid 90s, late 90s?
Yeah. Oh, well, we reduced one of our elementary schools. We used to have the 2, now the 1 building. no longer used. And I know someone recently purchased it to repurpose it. So that's a good thing with that. But, just the overall school population, reduction in the amount of teachers and of course, the amount of students, they've consolidated their resources as well, as far as, cafeteria, even the number of lockers in the high school. I noticed, it was a big change from when we were there. And of course, then dropping the sports classification down to the Class B. And, you see it, we don't have the number of players on a team like we used to. And then, Colstrip was a very competitive sports town. And it's not saying it's dropping off, but just know the lack of, students to participate, it is, affecting our competition in that aspect. And to, parents, to students, it's an important thing when you're going through school.
Right. No, we were pretty good back in the day. I'm reliving my glory years in my head right now, but
Yeah.
I think every time I walk in that school, I see a shot put record by Jason Small up there.
Yeah.
What was it, 50 or 60 feet 1 inch? Is that what it was? Or
60'9", I think.
Yeah.
That kind of hurts thinking about it at this age. Good stuff.
What happened to the discus though, Jason?
Oh, I still got it too.
Is it? It's still up there?
Yeah, 180.
How far was that one?
182 or something like that.
Oh man, that's a heck of a throw, old boy.
Yeah, I fell to 200 footer in Mile City, freaked everybody out. But yeah. God, I'm kind of feeling bad now. Anyway, what do you guys see as some of the solutions to the problems that the workers face there in town now? What are we looking at as things have evolved and changed?
Well, I mean, I think that one of our, like I mentioned earlier, health insurance. We gotta go forward. Something has to change in that aspect. I mean, it's getting, and I think it's not just us; it's nationwide. It's just out of reach. I mean, for everybody. I mean, you get these wages, you get the increase in your checks, supposedly, right? You get the whatever 3.25% or the 4%, and then all of a sudden you look at your take home pay didn't increase by a whole lot, right? You got health insurance goes up, everything gets more expensive, and it seems like the blue collar guy, we just don't have any more money in our pocket, and that's and I mean, I know it's probably nationwide, it's for everybody, but that's my biggest focus is, trying to get the cost of health insurance down. And that's not easy.
So that's one of the things we're proactively working on here at the AFL-CIO. This is a Medicaid reauthorization year. Every 4 years it comes up and we have to do some rewriting, fixing of the system, and try to pass Medicaid. Well, we used to call it Medicaid expansion, but right now basically it's Medicaid reauthorization because we're trying to keep the program intact. And that's one of the things. I mean, a lot of us, the blue collar folks, we're pretty happy. I mean, we're lucky. We have negotiated insurance in our, part of our package and this and that. And for other people in the state, one of the concerns that very few express or very few understand is the fact that if we don't reauthorize MedX again, we're going to lose our rural facilities one more time. Our little towns like Hardin and Colstrip, it's always a struggle to keep the clinic there and whatnot.
Right.
So that's a huge fight that the unions need to stay actively engaged in and make sure that we have medical access for all, not just insurance wise, but I mean actual physical facilities where we can take people. And that's one of the most important bills of the session coming up. I mean, we've got our other fights too. Payroll deduction for public sector unions. We have a shortening of unemployment insurance time frames, right? They're trying to go from 24 weeks down to 20 weeks for UI. which we know makes things difficult, right? That takes us out of the bracket of the states where people want to come to work. I mean, I know as I traveled the country, and I had my choice to go to, Montana or Washington State. And Washington had 26 weeks unemployment at $650 a week. I was damn sure going there, right? Just in case. You always got to look. You always got to look ahead, past the end of your nose, and decide what's the best road to take. So, I mean, we're going to see some if this passes and gets signed, and we're down to 20. I mean, that's going to devastate our road crews and booming workers, boomers. It's going to be a little tougher to get them to show up because nobody wants to take that gamble. So we've got quite a few fights going on at the moment. And hopefully, we maintain the successful position we have over the years. So I guess we've all been active to discussions about the future of Colstrip and what could come, what might come up, this and that. And I know just last night alone, we heard a pretty good talk from Northwestern Energy and about some of the possibilities that could show up. I mean, what are you guys looking forward to? What do you think will happen in the future, 2040 and beyond, or, even prior to that?
Right. Well, wasn't it a couple, maybe not last session, but the session before, they did what was it, Senate bill or SJ something? They did a study on the feasibility of a SMR, right, in the state of Montana. Was that 2 sessions ago, Jason? I can't remember.
I think we did it 2 sessions ago. Yep.
Right. If everybody was, rumors are, or, if everybody was, this is a perfect world, a small SMR would be, I think for baseload power, if you were looking to replace Colstrip in the future sometime, right? I think that would be an avenue for Colstrip. See, the great thing about Colstrip, and I don't know if everybody understands. If you haven't been to Colstrip, we have the infrastructure there. When those power plants were in the 70s, when were being built, we had 10,000 people working out of Colstrip. We had man camps set up. We've got a lot of infrastructure for construction. That's the great thing. And then secondly, you got the transmission is right there, right? I mean, so you currently have the 2 units that are hooked to the 500 kV lines right there. So right there, you got the infrastructure, you got the transmission, you got the water. What else could you possibly need? I mean, if you were looking to get out of coal, I mean, that would right now with the technology we have, that looks like that would be, in my opinion, of course, would be the future. The wind and solar is fine, but everybody always knows, there's no way to store that energy either yet. And so along with that, I think you saw it at the gas plant in Laurel, right, where they, had the plant completed, and then there's some lawsuits that were filed that made them restrict the permitting, right? Do I have that right? So along with that, is there something, that could help that process?
Well, there is. I mean, there was a big lawsuit. I'm going to step back just a second for the folks out there who aren't familiar with the acronym. So an SMR is a small modular reactor. So we are talking about the possibility of small scale nuclear energy there. And one of the other things that's always a possibility that could come in the future also would be some form of a gas plant too. And that brings up another point. So, I mean, there was a legal decision made during the interim here past couple of years that resulted because we kind of took away the whole MEPA review process, the Montana Environmental Protection Act. Sorry, take me a second. And we'd kind of removed entirely too much of that and left an open door there where people could step in and basically go at the system. So right now, the state legislature and many organizations have been writing legislation. There's 4 bills that can basically, to an extent, reset MEPA, close some loopholes, and probably guarantee a little smoother process for businesses as they come in and try to develop these powerhouses and whatnot. So that's one of the things that's been going on throughout the duration of the session, where we've been actively involved in several of the bills, supporting them. Is things that we got to get it done. Otherwise, our membership, our members, they suffer when there's an opportunity for litigation or the closure or shutting down or the stalling of projects and jobs, whether it be a coal mine, power plant, let's say refinery, even whatever. Our membership suffers. It really does. And it leaves an air of uncertainty for our workers, their families. So,
well, you lose members, right, Jason? I mean, let's be honest. You close Colstrip, you close the mine, you lose members. If they replace that with wind, these big wind jobs they bring in, they're non-union work. It's all non-union. I mean, they might use union to build some of it, and even that's questionable, right? We've both seen that. I mean, we know a lot of these wind farms aren't being built by union work.
right.
Union, I would say 90% of the time. So, I mean, that's that right there shows you want to keep Colstrip open. I mean, it employs union work. We're all union down there. The mine, the plants, the schools. I mean, heck, I think at one time maybe even Town Pump was union. I mean, we're a union town.
Oh yeah, by far and away, and it sets the gold standard, right? I mean, everybody working in Colstrip's making a livable wage, and there's no doubt about it. And if you're under the umbrella of one of the unions, it doesn't matter which one, you're making a livable wage, and that's how it's supposed to be. And so that brings us to the next question. Every session we see an onslaught of anti-labor bills. Once again, payroll deduction, right to work. Of course, right to work's the biggest one for the private sector. And we know right now there's 2 bills that are stalled out in drafting, that have right to work titles on them. And there could be more lurking around out there. Heck, who knows? But how does, if the state were to, pass right to work, how would that impact your membership? I mean, what's the end result of that kind of legislation?
I think it's devastating to the union movement. We're surrounded by right to work states, correct? And I mean, I don't even want to go there, Jason. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, that to me we bargained together collectively for a reason, right? I mean, that's what we do for a reason. And it seems to be pretty darn productive for everybody. A lot more productive. Let me tell you a story. I'm just going to back up, and I'm sorry, but I'm going back to Rosie here for a second. 6.5 years ago, we were able to organize Rosebud Operating Services, a little plant just outside of Colstrip, North Colstrip, probably 8 miles. So I had one of the bargaining BUE came to talk to me, and he's like, "Hey man, we all had a epiphany." And I said, "Well, what happened?" Because we'd been talking to this guy from Rosie for a few months, and he says, "Well, we all got together and started comparing what we got paid or what our raise was the last few years here, and they had discrepancy in their classifications." Okay, so I was say I was a JSO. Jason, you're a JSO. I don't know what happened. Maria's a JSO. She was well liked or whatever. Maria got a 5% increase, and Jason, you and I both only got a 1.5% increase. So what happened is they had a discrepancy in all their classifications. Like their top end was 10-11% ahead of their bottom end, in the same classification, doing the same job. So we were able to basically organize them based on that. And to me, if you want fair and be equitably treated in a job, you bargain together, and that's what we've done. That was the whole reason, one of their biggest reasons for wanting to become IBEW members and bargain collectively together. And it goes a long way with me, and I learned so much throughout that process because I was a new business manager at the time, and it solidified and opened my eyes to a whole different view of because let's be honest, I had worked union jobs since I was 21. I started at Cisco. I was a Teamster for 13 years. I got out of the Teamsters and I went to the local 400. I was working at the coal mine in Colstrip. I worked there for, only 6 months. Didn't like the scheduling, didn't work with me, but ended up at the power plant with the IBEW, right? So I had been working in different classifications, of course, but I was equal with who I was working with and the job I was doing. So when I saw Rosebud and we were able to look and see, man, this guy's making 8% more, a paycheck, or an hour. So that really opened my eyes. And like I said, I learned a lot, but that is, in my opinion, why you want a union representing you right there, because, there's, anyway, I'll get off my soapbox and let you go move on. But that's where I'm at with it anyway. I don't think it has any place in Montana.
Right on. No, it's always been a destination and a great place to be. I mean, these kids start out, they get out of school. Some of them go to college, some of them stay right there and land themselves, done a good job, work a lifetime, good retirement, raise families. And it's always been a pretty good place to be. So
I just wanted to mention one thing that I missed the janitors in our classifications when I was at the beginning of this podcast, and they're just as important as anybody else. So I just wanted to fill that in. I don't know how I missed that. And every classification from Rosebud, I could rattle off, but I don't think we need to.
All right. Well, I guess we'll be signing off with Tuesday, February 4th edition of the Blue Collar News. Thank you, guys. We'll catch you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.